Okay, hello and welcome to B&E Presents the Trend. This is episode 11. I am Alviana Brewster, the founder and CEO of Black Nurse Entrepreneurs, also known as B&E. We are the premier networking organization for Black nurses who are interested in launching, building, and growing their entrepreneurial endeavors. In this episode, we are talking to Miss Latisha Shannon. Latisha has been a registered nurse for 21 years and has been a business owner for 6 years. Latisha is the owner of Poppin Cheesecakes LLC. Recently, Latisha made a very transparent post about her journey with COVID-19 within our B&E group here on Facebook. Today, on her birthday, I thought it would be befitting to give Latisha the opportunity to discuss her journey further with our audience. So without further ado, I present to you the birthday queen, Miss Latisha Shannon. Hi, Latisha. How are you today?
I am doing great.
Fantastic.
I'm blessed. I'm doing
Good,
great.
good, 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 good. Fantastic. So we're going to get started here. First of all, tell us, how'd you get started in nursing, Miss Latisha?
How I got started in nursing? Well, I actually, before I got into nursing, had planned on going to school to be a dentist. That wasn't fitting for me. So I probably was about 20,
Did
20
you?
years old. And
Uh-huh.
yeah. I was about 20 years old and I worked as a hospital unit clerk for a intensive care unit. So, I used to do the orders and everything like that,
Gotcha.
but I was really intrigued with the nurses and life-saving measures. So, I was like, I really want to get into
Gotcha.
nursing and let me try. So I used to talk to some of the other nurses and they like, well, you can do it. So I said, well, let me go be a CNA first. So I went to a nursing home and I
Mhm.
went to be a CNA on an Alzheimer's unit. And I really did like the job, but it was kind of like poor leadership. So, I was like, I can't stay at this facility. So, I started off as a CNA. I probably stayed a CNA about 6 months. And then I, talked to this
Mhm.
girl. She probably had just graduated LPN school. And at that time, I, didn't really know the difference between LPNs, RNs, which were all nurses, no offense to anyone that's an LPN or anything. But back then, I've met more LPNs than RNs. So I was like, I want to go to school to be a nurse. So initially, I did go to be an LPN. So
Okay.
I stayed at LPN for probably about 5 or 6 years. And then I went ahead and transitioned into RN school. So,
Okay.
transitioned into RN school, got my RN and just went from there, and I pretty much have done travel nursing, contracting, different things. I've done pediatrics, but my strongest background was in psychiatric
Oh,
and,
really?
and yes, and telemetry. But I have a kind of no nonsense personality, so that fit me well. But then I also worked in telemetry too. So, but I've done quite a few things. I've done pediatrics.
Mhm.
I've done dialysis. I have done oncology. I have done recovery. I've worked as a case manager for an Air Force base. I used to do
Girl, you done it all.
no, so I've done a lot. But right now, I do more, surgical, oncology, surgical, and urology, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah, so.
Okay. Now, you told me about this poppin' cheesecake business. So tell our audience a little bit about your business.
Okay, well, how it developed. I initially
Mhm.
never even thought about being a business owner. I mean, growing up, I really didn't know anybody that owned businesses, but I think in that era, it was kind of like that. So I
Mhm.
tried my hand first, as I was telling you. I had a company that was called Beautiful Black Nurses, and I did a nursing calendar, and then I kind of dipped into makeup artistry a little bit to get that company. Well, it was okay, but that business
Mhm.
wasn't for me, so it kind of fizzled itself out. So I just kept doing nursing. Moved out to Arizona, and one day I just decided I seen this recipe for a caramel pecan cheesecake. I said I'm gonna make this caramel pecan cheesecake and just see if I can do it.
Mhm.
So then
Ooh.
all the holidays, people start
Ooh.
asking me. They was like, oh, that's so good. Can I buy it from you? I was like, buy it. I'll just make it. I wasn't even thinking about business at that point in time.
Mhm.
So I moved back to Oklahoma, where I'm
Mhm.
originally from. And it was 2014, that November. And somebody asked me about that caramel pecan cheesecake. And I told my husband, I said, you know what? I'm gonna start a cheesecake business. He said, you did the makeup thing and the calendar. You ain't gonna stick with it. I said, no, I'm gonna do it
Mhm.
because I had other business ideas. I said, no, I'm gonna stick with it. So that first November 2014, I made some cheesecakes. They taste good, but I didn't know anything about decorating or anything. So I thought I was really doing something. I remember I had one little KitchenAid, and so I made a couple little cheesecakes and took them to my job, and they liked them. So I approached this doctor and said, "Hey, no, he had paid somebody to make some cookies for him." And the cookies that they made, they didn't deliver them all, and because he worked at a lot of facilities, and they didn't deliver them all. They didn't put names
Mhm.
on some of them, so people didn't even know who they were from. So I said, well, I'll make some cheesecakes for you. And
Mhm.
he was like, can you ship to New Jersey? I'm like, nah, I can't do that yet. I said, but I'll make them for you. Guess what? He had 50 orders. So me, he
Mhm.
had a clue about, pricing on cakes. I didn't have no wholesale license to know about getting, you know, wholesale stuff or anything. So I went and bought all these packs of cream cheese, and plus I told them I would decorate them and deliver them. It was 15 different
Uh-huh.
deliveries, and this is Christmas, and I'm gonna cook Christmas dinner.
Oh.
So that first Christmas, I made all 50 of them orders by myself with a little small KitchenAid. I
Mm.
worked and made Christmas dinner and had to deliver. But I ended up making $3,000 on that first order. So
Wow,
that
look at you.
I was like, you know what? I can really do this. So then I just kept, trying out different cheesecakes and just experimenting on what I wanted to do. And I had to come up with a name, and I came up with Poppin Cheesecakes because I have a chocolate dip cheesecake on a stick that's a pop that everybody
Mm.
likes. So
Mm.
that's how I Poppin
Okay.
Cheesecake. It just grew from there. And then, I left Oklahoma a year ago. So now I'm in Atlanta, and I'm, trying to expand in here. And I'm officially going to be, starting to ship online as of next week. So
Nice.
that's how I
Nice.
started the cheesecake business.
Fantastic. So, about was it about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago or
Yeah.
so, you made a very
Yeah.
open, transparent post within the group. And I actually have been thinking about, I have been thinking like, I would like for somebody to come on and discuss their journey with Corona because I know there's been some nurses, some frontline nurses that have been through this journey firsthand, not only on the
Right.
front lines and caring for patients, but also have been maybe sick themselves. And so when you
Right.
came on and you shared the video, I was like, oh my gosh, she would be perfect. I really want to hear her story. And if I have it correct, and you can correct me, and I'll give you the opportunity to expand on it. But I remember you saying, I'm scared. I'm afraid because I've caught it and I've been through it, and now I have to go back. I have to make this decision to go back to
Right.
work, and will I catch it again? How am I going to deal with this? And so I want to give you the opportunity to share your story with our community.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to start from the beginning, but about the video, that was going to be my first day back at work.
Mhm.
I had already, for like probably the week before that, hadn't been sleeping
Mm.
because I had such high anxiety about going back. Because I just kept thinking, because for one, I do have asthma, and so it really can affect your
Mhm.
breathing a lot. And I was very fortunate not to have the breathing issues, but I had anxiety. I hadn't slept. I could not sleep, and I was so afraid. So when I got up that morning, my husband didn't know who I was downstairs talking to. He thought I was on the phone talking to somebody. I made that video probably like 5 o'clock in the morning because I just it was just on my heart to just do it because I never really make videos or anything like that. But to the beginning. So the unit that I was working on at one time, probably about 4 months ago when COVID hit really bad, we had became a COVID unit. So I had known other nurses that had called it, but I had a scare last time because last time I was on a unit that they had to shut down because all the nurses had called it. I just happened to,
Wow.
I guess they say, dodge the bullet that time because they were transitioning over to a COVID unit, but they weren't, well, they hadn't become a COVID unit. So that was before facilities had made a point to make it mandatory to wear a mask. I was the only one that had one on, but that
Mhm.
unit, they weren't wearing because they weren't considered a COVID unit. Well, I go back to work that, I think that Monday, and they're like, oh, they had to shut that whole unit down because everyone of them have it. So I had to get tested the first time it was negative. So then my unit went to a COVID unit, and then things slow. It stayed like that maybe 2 or 3 months, and it slowed down, and we went back to a regular unit. So I still hadn't caught it.
Okay.
So then it was just another day, and we have been having issues with, they're supposed to test people when they initially come in. Sometimes the hospitals are not doing that, and they tell you that people are negative, and you're like, okay, they negative, they got no signs and symptoms. We just wear regular masks. At that time, they were
Mhm.
telling us not to wear N95 unless we knew the patient was COVID or unless we suspected them of being COVID or if they have symptoms. Well, my patient was a young patient, no symptoms, anything like that. So I was just wearing a regular mask. I didn't wear an N95 because our unit was supposed to be all tested people and no COVID. Now, if they start to develop symptoms, then it would be a different story. So later that day, when I was on my
Mhm.
computer, I guess they had retested my patient. I don't know why, because they had no issues. And I seen it was positive. And I was like, I've been in this room and everything, and this patient's positive. So that probably was like a Wednesday. I was fine. And I was like, well, I'm gonna be fine. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'll wash my hands. I'll, have my mask on, but he never had one on. He would never put one on. But I was like, but he's young.
Mm.
He's not gonna have any symptoms, no, he don't have no symptoms. So I was fine. That was Wednesday, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then like that Wednesday, the next Wednesday, all of a sudden I just felt sick. And I was like, I think I'm coming down with a cold. I was telling myself this. I said, but
Mhm.
I ain't had a cold in a long time. Like, I feel like I'm coming down with a cold. Then I got this dry cough. And I'm like, okay, well, I have allergies. Let me take my allergy medicine. Then I woke up the next morning and I felt like I was hit by a truck. I can't even
Wow.
explain how it feels. Like, my head hurt. I have a history of migraines, but I take something that usually goes away. But my head hurt so bad. I felt like somebody was just taking a fist and pushing my eyes out the front of my head.
Mm.
And I kept this cough and I was weak. It was like I was so weak, like I was drained, literally like weak. And I had no appetite. And when I did try to eat some, I was nauseated. Then I started throwing up. And then when I did try to drink water or something like that, it tastes like metallic in my mouth. And
Mm.
I was like, something's wrong. So then I went to the ER and my head was hurting so bad. And I think because like, the ERs are full right now, but I just happened to
Mhm.
be that day where nobody was really there. And they got me back. And I was like, y'all, my head hurts so bad. They had to give me morphine. They had to give me, I think, Toradol. And like, it just, nothing was working. Like my head was just hurting so bad. So, they tested me, but I kind of knew that that's what it was going to be. So I stayed there a while. I didn't have to get admitted because I didn't have a fever and I didn't have respiratory problems. So they sent me home. Of course, I had to quarantine in my room. But it was like that night, I just felt sick. Like the headache wouldn't go away. They gave me some stuff, but it just kept going and coming, going and coming. And I just still felt so weak. I still felt so nauseated. I couldn't eat anything. I don't even know how to describe how it feels. I've been sick before, but it's just like a feeling that some don't feel right. It's just some don't feel right. And I was just like, I just feel terrible. Like it was like a chore to even get up, try to go to the bathroom, try to eat something. Like I just literally like felt sick. Then the next day, it just felt like I felt worse. But you know, like I said, I never had a fever or anything, but I just felt so drained. And I was really scared because I've taken care of COVID patients and I have seen them go from okay to on a ventilator in 10 minutes, less than that. And I just kept thinking, oh my God, you know, my family's checking on me, but what if they don't check on me enough and I just turn that quick? You know, I was really scared of like, what if I was going to die? Like I was really scared like I was going to die. I really was. And I was just like praying like, Lord, you know, just get me through this. I said, I always understood, but I was like, I really understand now. And I just felt sick, you know, and they, of course, you know, they call and check on you every day and stuff like that. So the next day, I think it was, yes, it was the next day because it was a 24-hour test. They called and told me that I was, you know, positive. But I had already kind of had the feeling that that's what it was. But you see different symptoms with everybody. But I just, you know, I just felt sick. So, you know, basically I had to, you know, quarantine. I never really had an appetite. It eventually built up. But I mean, I looked terrible too. Like I just looked like I had no color and just weak. You know, my dad was calling me. They were really scared that, you know, they were really scared. My family was. They were scared. And I was scared. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I was scared that I wasn't going to make it. You know, that it was going to turn around, you know, even though I didn't have a breathing issues and nothing, but that's the first time in my life I really felt like I might die of something. I really felt like that. And that is a scary feeling. So then I had to think about, gosh, you know, what about my patients when they're in the room? We can only go in there so much to check on them. And they actually do have breathing problems. You know, because I've had a couple of patients that literally cried because you can't see your family, you know. And, you know, I had people ask me all the time, patients, am I going to make it out of here? Am I going to be able to go home? And you tell people, yeah, but that may not be true. And then, you know, I've also had some that their kids call that morning. Oh, I'm calling to check on mom. Oh, she's eating right now. And they're like, okay, I'll call her back and get off that phone. They pass away. Then you got to call their kids and say, well, mama didn't make it. They feel like, oh my God, I called her to talk to her for breakfast. And, you know, so I already had the PTSD. I don't have PTSD diagnosed, but I'm just saying the traumatic, you know, I already had trauma and traumatic thoughts and feelings from what I had already seen months ahead of time with patients. And that fear of that can happen to me. And just knowing, you know, like I could relate and feel sad and understand, but then I really understood. Like those patients were in a room by themselves. People can hardly go in and see them. They can't even call their kids or their mom or their dad, and they're really scared. Like probably not gonna make it out of here. So I've really seen it from a different aspect. And today is my birthday, and I'm just grateful because I just thought about this. That could have been my last. That could have been my last. And I'm just grateful, you know, I'm just grateful. Like that could have really been my last, you know, birthday. And I'm not a person with a lot of health problems. I'm just, regular stuff. But I was just like, that really could have just been my last birthday. And I just imagine how my family felt, back in Oklahoma, knowing that I was sick and they couldn't be here with me, being scared. So I can imagine at home, your loved one is in the hospital and you're thinking they're going to die. And you don't even get to see them and talk to them. Yeah, we can get like FaceTime and stuff for them, but it's not the same. And I was really grateful to have my husband because he was able to cook for me and, bring my food, set it outside the door. But what about people who don't have anybody? We send people home all the time who don't have anybody to do anything for them. Or what if they don't have somebody there that can call 911 or something like that, or they can't reach it? So I just feel like, I hate sending people home that have COVID that don't have anybody. I just feel like they should have maybe some type of place set up for them that has nurses that watch over the place to help people who don't have loved ones. Because that is a scary feeling. And the way you feel, it's just like you feel sick. Even now, even though I'm recovered, I still don't really taste a lot of food. Stuff still tastes real metallic. And I still get nauseated sometimes when I eat. Like those are still some of the, I was reading and, I was talking to my doctor. They said still some of the symptoms that you could have for months. They don't know how long. Not that you can give it to anybody, but just your body, like they still don't know how it hits your body. So like when I have to I have to take stuff for like GERD and acid reflux because when I eat, I feel sick, like I have to throw up. And I still don't have like the best taste in my mouth, like for certain foods. Like it just, I'm still not back the same. And I don't know if I ever will be, So it's so much they're still trying to research and find out about this. But, I don't really get the headaches anymore. Some people say they still do, but mine is just more of, I just feel like acidy all the time when I eat stuff. Like it just doesn't seem like it sits well or it doesn't seem to digest well. I don't know how to explain it. It's a weird feeling. Like you just feel sick soon as you eat. So it's like I have to usually take like some Prilosec or something before I eat. And then, sometimes it feel better, sometimes it don't, but I feel acidy all the time when I eat and just still feel real nauseated. I don't really feel weak anymore, but that's the issues I've had since I had, recovered from it. I still just food don't really taste that great. But thanks to God, I was back to making cakes. I can still taste my cakes, when I bake them on how good. I think God made that made it to where I can because I still have to run my business. So when it comes to me tasting my batter and stuff, I can taste that. But like just regular food, I don't really like have an appetite for nothing. But it's like I know I have to eat. But I really don't have an appetite. And when I do eat, I feel a little hungry, but nothing tastes good. So I don't really want anything. So, I just hope that can return to normal one day. So yeah, I really hope it can. But it's been interesting. It's really been interesting going through this. It has. It really has been interesting. And I just hope that people protect themselves out there because a lot of people are not taking this serious, and it is because some people have worse case than others. And, a lot of people don't make it. So I just really hope that they can figure something out when it comes to this disease or this virus that we have. And especially the frontline workers, like really just try to protect yourself. But I did everything right. And it's still, I still end up with the virus. So, I just hope that people watch this and realize that this is not a joke, that this is serious. So, I don't know. I think it kind of paused right now. Let's see. Sorry, y'all, but it's kind of paused right now. I was waiting for her to respond, but I think it paused right now. Let me see if I can we can do with the string. I know we live, y'all, but her side paused, so I'm trying to get her back on here. Let's see. Okay. Okay, there you go. Yeah, it kind of paused for a minute.
Yeah, it was. I reloaded it, and I think. Can you hear me pretty good?
I can now. Yeah, yeah.
I can hear everything that you said. So, wow. That's all I got to say is wow. And you covered everything that I was going to ask you. Well, first and foremost, one of the reasons why you see my shirt. You see what my shirt says? Hold
Yes.
on, let me. You see what my shirt says? Okay, so I specifically wore this shirt for you today because, and it's befitting for us to have this conversation on today, the day of your birth, because there's a total different significance about the whole disease process and your birthday and all of that today. So I wanted to represent the fact that I feel like you're truly blessed
No, I
throughout this
am.
journey, and
Yes.
that this birthday is so much different. I'm assuming for you because now it's the gift of life, and how fragile it was even in that moment. And we spend a lot of time taking care of our patients and taking care of people, never really thinking about, oh hell, it may be our day one day. We never know, but we spend so much time just taking care of everybody else. And unfortunately, there's a time in our life that we may become a patient as well. So I just thank God that you are on the other side of it, and I hope that you continue to heal. And
Yeah.
you look good to me, and I hope that you're starting to feel internally.
Yeah.
You said something.
It's a
You
food
never
thing.
had a fever.
No, I never did. I never
Still
had a
with the food.
fever.
Never had a fever. Okay.
Mm-mm.
What other symptoms that they typically talk about that you never had
I never had
outside
any
of fever?
respiratory issues. I never, a lot of people it affects them the respiratory, but I didn't, which was a blessing because I have asthma. And a lot of times with our asthmatics, it
Right.
does, but I never had no breathing problems. I just had a like a little small dry cough, but that was it. It didn't even last for very long. It was just more of the other things with the nausea. The vomiting went away, but I just still had the nausea feeling. But the weakness is what took forever to go away. Like I felt so weak, like literally drained. Like that was one of the biggest issues is, you
Mhm.
know, feeling drained. Yeah. So, and then, like I said, just the
What
food.
was the time frame that go ahead.
No, that was just saying. I was just saying, just the drain feeling was bad. Yeah, feeling like I couldn't do anything, just really weak. Hmm. Yeah. So.
Okay. What was the time frame of your symptoms? Was it the traditional 14 weeks as they tell us, or did you have a longer or shorter amount of time?
Well, okay. From when I initially, it probably was a week when I first got the symptoms from the exposure, from where I think I got it from. But my symptoms probably, I probably say about 7, 8 days. Well, like my main ones, like my headache. The weakness, I
Okay.
still kind of felt that, but like the headache, the cough went away, but the nausea feeling didn't. But like the main thing, like the headache that I had really, really bad, that a lot of people talk about, that I said probably about a week on that. And the appetite thing, I started eating better, but that's still not the best. But I would say, yeah, 7, 8 days. But them 7, 8 days feel long because you're sitting in a room, you
Yeah.
can't go anywhere, and you scared to death. It just felt like the longest 7 to 8 days that you have because all you can get up and do. I mean, they really don't. They just treat the symptoms, so it really wasn't no medicine to give me. Because
Mhm.
they gave me something for my stomach, And what else? It really wasn't nothing to give me. They just told me to drink a lot of fluids and take your vitamin C and stuff like that, but it wasn't. And they told me if stuff get worse to come back, but it really wasn't it ain't really no treatment. It's just, it gotta kind of pass. Of course, if you get respiratory problems or something, you go back and they'll treat that. But as far as just somebody that had the body aches and hurting, it's not really a lot that you can take, or it's really nothing you can take, to be honest. You just kind of got to let it take its course, so. And then, too, them, a dry throat, like my throat.
So how long ago?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No worries. I just wanted to know, how long ago was it that you've kind of been on the other side of it? What day was that? I guess around the time that you returned back to work, I'm assuming.
I just went back to work. What was it? There was that day I made the video. I think that was the 27th.
It's been about a week and a half ago.
Yeah. And then I initially got sick around the first week of June. It was like around the first week of June, something like that. Yeah. So yeah. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it that they're telling us now is, but certain places, if you test positive for COVID, some places are telling people they can go back to work if they have no symptoms. And in some places are saying after 10 days, if you have no symptoms, you can go back, and they're not really retesting. But to test positive, tell you go to work, because what they do is when you get tested, instead of you going home, if you at work, you finish your work day out. But then they tell you to quarantine. It don't make it.
Come on.
So how can they tell you to quarantine when we test you for COVID, but you can stay at work till you get your results and find out if it's positive or negative? Like, but I've talked to other nurses that are told that if you're positive with no symptoms, you can stay at work. But then they say quarantine. So I'm not getting it. So how can we ever get this under control?
And I've heard.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, wow, okay.
Exactly. So what would be your message for Black people as a culture? What do we need to do?
Take this serious. There should be no pool parties. There should be no nightclubs. And if I understand businesses have to run. If somebody has a business, do where, a lot of places are where, of course, you wear your mask, but they only let so many people in at a time. That's smart, because we still have to, go on and buy things. And just, the grocery stores, it's no way you can really tell so many people to come in at a time. But like certain stores, or restaurants, just have people, maybe have 5 or 6 people in at a time. And a lot of them they're doing like every other table, which makes sense. And have the workers with masks on. But I'm sorry. And a lot of people are not going to agree with me. I know people want to go on with life. But pool parties and getting together in giant groups, that is not making sense. You're just passing COVID around to everybody. And I think sometimes people don't take this serious because they don't know anyone who's had it, or it hasn't affected their family. But there should be no gathering of hundreds of people, gathering of 30 people, 40 people. Like, this is not a joke. It's not. And you don't want them to have to do like legal stuff to say you can't go out or you can't do this, because we know we have a corrupt system that wouldn't be fair. But we're going to have to do something to control this. And as long as people don't abide by what we're supposed to be doing, this is not going to go away until they can get some type of vaccine or something to help with this. I hate to say it, And I'm not trying to be negative, but it's the truth because nobody is listening.
Right.
Nobody's listening until they shut everything down again. Nobody is listening. People like, oh, I'm sick of wearing masks. Oh, well, can you imagine a nurse wearing it 12 hours a day?
Right.
Oh, and don't go in a COVID room. You see what we wear. We're double masked. We have a shield on or goggles, gown, gloves. Stay in a room and bathe the patient or something for hours. You're literally drenched in sweat. Your face masks are drenched in sweat. I mean, you're hot. The only time we can ever take them off is to eat. We cannot take our mask off all day. At least, I know people go to work, they have to wear them too, but at least they can, they don't have the kind of job to where, like some of them are so far apart that if they did kind of take their mask off for a little bit, they're okay. But we can't do that. It's mandatory,
right.
which we should wear them anyway, but we're wearing it all day. So just imagine how we feel. And this is what I'm trying to stress to people. If nurses keep catching this, I know someone right now that has caught it twice as a nurse. She's walking away. She's not going back. If every one of your nurses quit, who's going to take care of anybody? So to make sure that your family is taken care of, do the right thing so that the frontline workers can be safe and stay on the job to take care of everybody. If you don't, people are going to say, I'm not going back. Or all your nurses are going to be sick. Who's going to take care of the people? So when people don't abide by the rules, just think about, if I get sick, I have to have a nurse in the hospital to take care of me. I have to have a doctor to take care of me. If everybody's getting sick from everybody not following the rules, there's going to be nobody to take care of me. Then what? How can we save lives if nobody there to do it?
Then what?
Because I'm telling you, I literally know lots of nurses that are like, I don't want to do this anymore. That have literally they're not doing it right now. And it's scary. It is such a shortage. Do you know how much other states are paying just to have nurses to take care of COVID people? Like, they've never had to pay that type of money before.
Thousands.
8 and 10,000 a week. How long you think that's going to be able to last with the way money is and the economy is? If hospitals is expensive. And we're taking care of people who probably can't pay bills. Most of us can't pay hospital bills. So it's like, we've got to think smart to be able to have people take care of sick people, because we have a lot of sick people right now. So I just want people to think about that, when they're not doing what they're supposed to. It used to be, I know I can go to the hospital. Well, if you ain't got nobody to take care of you, ain't going to nobody's hospital.
Right. Or I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to, they may have something unrelated, but they're like, I don't even want to go into the ER. I'd rather suffer because I'm afraid that I'm going to catch something in the ER.
And that's the sad part, because people, like you said, are scared. So our census was low except for like COVID patients. So people are sick and dying at home because they're afraid to go get treated for stuff. And think about, all the surgeries quit except for the absolutely necessary ones. I mean, people that affected because there could be no surgeries or nothing. So long as people keep spreading it and it keeps getting worse, we're not going to ever go back to normal if people don't stop. Because look, we were at a point to where the numbers were going down. Now everybody got tired of being in the house. We're going to start acting like it doesn't exist. The numbers have shot up crazy.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, I've been on my soapbox about it the whole time, and I wish as a nation we could have shut things down back in March like really,
Right.
really hard shut down in
Right.
March and gotten it really, really under control. And then slowly, based up
Open
on the
back up.
data, based up on the science, open it back up in phases.
Right.
Open up this and see how it does for a
Yep.
few weeks, open up that, see how it does for a few weeks, and so on and so forth. And I personally feel like there was too much leeway given to all of
Mhm.
the states. And so you
Mhm.
had this state doing this state doing that one doing
Right.
that, and it's total chaos. And so even if you do have a state that has kind of sort of gotten it under control, if you got people traveling back and forth, you got travel nurses, you got folks having parties over here, weddings over there, whatever, you're coming from a state that is a hot zone into a state that's gotten it under control. I feel like it's just going to keep cycling.
It
It's just
has
exactly what you're saying.
it has to be a controlled movement. It has to be controlled movement. And I know people hate to think of it because we're not robots, but it does. It's got to be, it has to be that only the necessary things have to be open. And, and I really feel for a lot of our businesses that are failing, but that's where the government needs to come in and help everybody. They're going to have to help everybody because in order to get this under control, they're going to have to help everybody to where they can have something to eat, a place to stay, and don't have to worry about bills or none of that. They're going to have to get that under control first, where people can feel comfortable with closing things down. People can feel comfortable or not, without going to work. If people want to order stuff online and stuff like that, and you got delivery coming, stuff, that's different. But we're talking about sitting in places, face-to-face jobs, and then they want to get upset about people, and unemployment. And I had to ask someone this. I said, so if you was a person and you made minimum wage and you worked all these years at a job where you can't take care of your family, and finally you got unemployment to pay
Mhm.
your bills, would you choose to go back to McDonald's? No, you wouldn't. Because finally, for once, you can take care of your family. I feel if you work a job where you don't make that much money, if you're not going to increase their pay rate or you're not going to keep letting them get their money while they go to work, then how can you expect them to go back to that? So they're supposed to give up paying bills to going back to barely having anything. They need to come up with something for
and
people.
and then their life in danger.
Right. So why would they expect it? Because I'm gonna tell you what's going to happen. If they don't get this under control, they're going to end up having to shut everything down again anyway, and they're going to have to help people again anyway. So you're going right back doing the same thing when you can just try to control it. I feel if people have these minimum wage jobs, the government needs to at least still keep giving them money every month to go along with what they make. If it's somebody who makes good money, can still work, then no. But somebody, I mean, there are people that are really struggling, really struggling. Of course, we got scams and stuff going on, but that messes things up for everybody. But really look at people that are suffering, financially. So it's sad because this virus and disease affects so much. It affects you in every way. Your health, your well-being, taking care of your family. I mean, it affects the whole world in so many ways. That's why it is so serious, and I wish people would see that. I really wish they would.
Yep,
So what do we do?
I do too. And when did I when did we become so consumed with selfishness and entitlement? Like it's all about me and not about my fellow brother and sister, my fellow neighbors, the country. When did we get to a point where we don't care about each other?
I'm gonna tell you what this disease or this virus did teach us. It doesn't matter how fancy your car is, if you got red on the bottom of your shoes, if you the prettiest person in the world, if you got the best paying job, none of that matter. Because at the end of the day, when none of that stuff was open, where you couldn't flash all your fancy things, which is nothing wrong with having. Don't get me wrong. It's nothing wrong with having things that you work for. So I'm not saying it. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, when this happened, it showed that none of that stuff mattered. What mattered was the bare necessities: food, clothing, and a place to lay your head. Because it was running out of groceries. People was worried about getting evicted. So at the end of the day, no matter how rich or how poor you were, we were all trying to just have the same basic things. So none of that other stuff mattered.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
That is exactly right. And I hope that somebody will learn the lesson out of it. You told me earlier that you have 21 years of nursing experience. If you are a new nurse starting during this time, what do you think you would go ahead and proceed on with nursing?
no, I'm going to be honest with you. No. And it's sad to say, because we have to have people take care of patients, but I'm gonna tell you why, as a new nurse, I wouldn't want to right now, because with nursing is trial and error. Even though you learn in school, you learn really when you get out of school by experience. Well, now the experience you get may get you sick. It ain't like it was. So you can't just go catch something real quick and come back and I'm gonna learn. So now it's more dangerous and scarier, because they're basically putting the new nurses out there just because they need help, but they're not getting the experience they need to handle these type of patients. Just like when they were, the travel nurse, a lot of time, I don't work ICU, but a lot of those nurses, they have never worked ICU because of the shortage, and they're traveling, were put in ICUs and didn't even know what to do. It's not their fault, but that's how bad they need the help. So but at least somebody seasoned like me can say, well, I don't know this, but I know enough about basic anatomy and nursing to figure it out. A new nurse can't do that. Yeah. She ain't got the experience for it. So that's scary.
Yep.
It's scary,
It's very scary.
It is. I just hope that,
it's very scary for them
and the patients. All of us.
Go ahead.
I'm saying it's for the patients and all of us.
That's what I'm thinking.
I got somebody ain't never did nothing for the take care.
You better out of school how long?
Yeah,
You just graduated yesterday.
It's just the anxiety, period. Like
you're
me,
exactly right.
Going back to work, it's like I think about every little move. Did I wash my hands enough? Is my mask on good? Like, it's an anxiety there that I have to pray about every day. Like, I just, it's hard. God gets me through it, but it's hard because I'm like just on edge. I'm just on edge with taking care of people because I don't want to go through it again. Like, and then what if the next time is worse if you catch it? So it's like you just afraid. So you got afraid people taking care of you.
Yeah.
Even ones who haven't caught it, but yeah, And they talk to the nurses that have had it. Other nurses are like, wow, I know friends that took off for months, still ain't going back. I mean, it's really short right now. So I just, want everybody to uphold their nurses and know that, the doctors go in there, but half them won't even hold the tablet.
They in and out.
They won't even hold the tablet for them to talk to their family. Some will, but very rarely. It's us that do it all. And our techs, our CNAs are great. They're the ones, they're super exposed. They're bathing patients. They're feeding patients. They are very important to nursing. They're probably in the room more than the nurse. So they're at risk. I've known a lot of them that's caught it too. We got to remember CNAs are the backbone of nursing. The CNAs are the backbone, and they don't get enough appreciation. And we have to think about them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
scary for them, so
Nope.
we got to remember that. So, yeah. So, I just hope that people see
Yeah.
this and know that it's real.
There's a lot of people within our. Yes, I agree. So many people that, a lot of times nurses and doctors get a lot of recognition because I guess that's what all patients think. Run a hospital. It's interesting, but it was my nurse and my doctor and the nurses and doctors, and don't get me
Right.
wrong, I appreciate nurses and doctors just like the next person, but it takes a whole system of people to run and make sure that one patient is appropriately cared for, from
That's
housekeeping
right.
to CNAs
That's
to
right.
therapists through to pharmacy to laboratory. It takes a horrendous respiratory therapist. Don't even get me
Right. Oh,
started on my respiratory I'm like,
man,
at
they're
least with
the
nurses, you might have a total hip over next door that ain't even got respiratory issues.
right.
Respiratory, that's all they do is respiratory. They
They're
constantly in
really, they're
somebody's mouth and
really
sputum. So
oh,
those
yes.
people of all,
Mhm.
yes,
Yes, they are
yes,
really exposed. Respiratory is really
extreme
exposed
amounts
compared
of
to
exposure.
all that. They really are. And that's, I think sometimes people don't think about, and then our housekeeping, like you said, like they have to sanitize all that stuff and clean that up. And that's why I'm like, we just have to learn to really appreciate. As I should say, the CNAs, respiratory, and housekeeping are the backbone. They definitely are, because respiratory they're the ones that's biggest danger because it's droplets. They have to really make sure that they're covered, and that's, it
Hmm.
takes a whole team to take care of
Yep,
these patients. A whole team. It does. And then that's another thing, when they have a cold, that's
it
a
does.
totally different way. Because we used to just run in a room. Now you got to do all that.
Hmm.
We have to how quick you got to get that stuff on to save
Hmm.
lives. So that's a whole nother thing in itself. You're totally exposed then. So I think a lot of people don't think about that because they don't have that experience or have to deal with it. And then we got to think about our
Hmm.
people in the grocery
Hmm.
store. They have to deal with everybody. They really dealing with people. So I just hope
Yeah,
that people get a
yeah.
more of appreciation for people that a lot of times jobs that people don't pay attention to. And I'll just show you just how important they are and have always been. Have always been. So things happen to make us look at things differently sometime, huh? Which I've always looked at it that way,
That's
but
right.
everybody
And if we're fortunate enough, that's right. If we're fortunate enough, hopefully we get to survive it and get the lesson out of it and take that lesson and keep going with it. There's a lot of great things that could come out of this if people sit
yeah,
still and get the
right.
lesson that is to be learned out of it. If people are too doggone entitled, too selfish, too privileged to get the lesson that is to be learned out of this, then we're going to be
Mhm.
right back at square one. There's
But
a
I tell
lot that can be
you,
learned out of this.
well, if people decide they don't, sometimes things in life, they say if you don't sit down, you will get set down.
That is true.
You will get set down. Hey, believe me,
That is true. I don't want to be sat down.
you will get set down one way or another. Whether you like it or not, life is
Hmm.
like that. You will get set down and you will have to
That is
learn.
true.
You will
Hmm.
sometimes walk people's shoes. I hope that people can stop walking these shoes though. I hope. I don't want, I would not wish this upon anybody. I'm just grateful to be able to hear. That's why, like I said, I usually don't even do lives or anything like that. Every once in a while I do it for a business, but it was just on my heart that morning. I was like,
Hmm.
I've got to do this. I said, I've got. to do this. Like I just it didn't sit right until I got it off of me. Because I didn't even tell people that I had it or anything. I just, stayed really to myself. But I was like, this needs to be put out there. It definitely needs to maybe I can prevent.
Yes, and I'm glad that you did.
Yeah. So, and then I got to meet you, so that was wonderful. So I'm really glad that happened.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes, and I appreciate you for taking my invitation and coming on and being transparent about your journey. It's not always the easiest, and like you said, some people are not comfortable and like, yeah, I don't want to do all this live stuff. But I think that your story, there's a lot that can be learned there, and hopefully that the community will listen. And whenever you posted your initial video, there were a lot of people that made comments under it that were sympathizing with you and or have similar experience. They were like, yes, I agree. I'm afraid too. This is how it happened to me. And I knew towards the beginning when COVID first hit, I think there was like one or two people that started commenting within the group about that they had it or was going through it. And obviously everyone's experience with COVID is a little different. But
right.
As obviously the months have gone on, I'm seeing more and more and more and more and more and more people that are nurses, frontline nurse, bedside nurses, etc., that have been diagnosed with it. And obviously all of them have a different story, but those stories are very unique and very precious to me. And I will just say that I am very, very happy that you are here to even tell the story. So that's why I had to wear my blessed shirt today on your birthday. And I hope that this birthday not only means something, I'm a big thing. I love birthdays. Okay. That's my thing. I love birthdays because every day is not promised to you. So if you've lived another year, I like to celebrate it. So I want to look, I'm going to give you a hand clap because you made it a whole nother year, despite all of this stuff that has happened. You are here on your birthday. And so I say happy birthday to you. And I thank and praise God for you. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I sure do. It is a blessing.
You're very welcome. So before we wrap up, before we wrap up, do you have any last thoughts, any last things that you'd like to say to the audience?
Well, first of all, I want to appreciate you for inviting me to your podcast to be able to spread this word that people need to hear. I appreciate you for that. And I just want the world to know, and everyone that's out there that's listening, to please be safe and follow the rules, because your story may not be like mine if you were to contact it. You may not be one who can live and talk about it, or you may cause someone else to catch it that may cause them their demise. So let's not be selfish. Let's think of others, because this is about everyone affecting everybody that can actually cause someone to lose their life. And we don't want it to be anybody to lose their life, because the selfishness you have, what if somebody else have that and causes that for you or your family member? So let's be safe, care about one another, and just continue to be blessed. And we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. And every time you think about going to that party or something, don't do it. But that's it.
I know that's right. Fantastic. Well, again, I thank you and I appreciate you for coming in. And if nothing else, we'll wrap up here. And I'll let you go and get to celebrate the remainder of your birthday for tonight. So that is it for us today. Make sure that you're following us across our social media platforms and join our private Facebook group, and also visit our website and download our new app. All of our information will be listed in the biography section of our podcast. So until next time, I want everyone to remember that we are the trend. We set trends around here. We don't follow anyone trends. So if that's it, nothing else, then I say good night to everyone, and thank you, Miss Latisha Shannon. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Goodbye. All right.
Have a good night.
You too.